Okay, so this is where the history gets a little tricky, right? The first video, I feel like I kind of got into all of the history combined. The second video, I wanted to dive deeper into the white history of it all. Now, this third part, it gets tricky because we have that fight about were black people here already or did they come from Africa? Now, historically, the word black was not used before like the 1670s to even describe people because race itself wasn't really even created yet. So when they talked about it, it gets a little tricky, especially because they're trying to hide so much. So I know people like to tussle about where we here already, did we come from Africa? I don't really care to have an argument. Believe what you want. I know who I am. I know where my people come from. I hope you do your own genealogy. But even historically, when you look up things, when you go to libraries and you read about these things, they will say blacks, Africans, and indigenous. Blacks and African. Blacks, Africans, natives, and indigenous. Where are all these categories coming from if we're all African and they're all native? So, I don't know what to tell you. Do your own research. But it's going to get a little wonky right here because there's some parts where they even change the race and ethnicity of people historically to cover up and further go with the whole forcing us to be black, African, and slaves. So technically, Indians, natives, indigenous, whatever you want to call them, they were enslaved first, obviously, right? Now, mind you, if you look into the history of it, after Christopher Columbus, because he didn't come to the U.S., after the people who started coming here, they was getting asses whipped by the indigenous people. In Florida, multiple times. I think up in New York, they was getting fucked up. Even in Nova Scotia. So it was hard to get that little coast down. That's why they was coming through Mexico and taking out them people first. And the Native Americans from Siberian descent who were up in the north and like Canada, they were working with them because if you look into the Little Ice Age, their shit was freezing out. Now, a lot of people like to go way, way back to the Ice Ages to when they came over here. I don't know when they came, but I do know that the Little Ice Age that was happening around the same exact time in the 1500s was affecting them up in Canada. So this is why they were coming down deeper, because they needed somewhere to go. Now, this is important because this will help you understand the washing out of black indigenous people. Because in order for them to claim this land as well, they needed to come together with somebody to take over the land. So when people be like, why everybody want to be indigenous? This is just history and it's just facts. The Africans were coming over from the other side, as well as Europeans who were also being affected by the Little Ice Age. Look it up. And they needed new land. So once this new world was found, which is not found, you can't find something people are on, they all came together in agreement to take down these people. Now the natives up north, affected by the Little Ice Age, needed fresher lands. It was getting frozen up, so they were coming down from the Dakotas and Minnesota and stuff like that, right? So during the time of like the 1670s and all of that, and then we get deeper into the Indian Removal Act and stuff, this is when they started the swap out. Y'all, I ain't saying that the natives were not here in America. Argue with your mama, don't argue with me. I'm just saying this is when they agreed to take the place of the people who were indigenous to the South. The South was thriving. And then we can get deeper into it and go, this is a little later, but it goes into the reclassification era. So during the 1920s, that's when a lot of great massacres happened. A lot of massacres that removed black people from their homes that they owned, the lands included. We ain't gonna get too much into it, but a little bit after slavery, how was there so many thriving black communities that were millionaires and owning everything and had generational wealth already accumulated? Anyways, a lot of people don't know that Tulsa massacre had a lot more to do with oil than just hatred and racism. Now, because race was invented to make us feel inferior and create their mental illness that we call white superiority, they have to make everything about race so that we don't pay attention. Now, when they reclassify us with race and they made everybody dark black and everybody like white, you have the lighter natives who were like, I'm going to choose that side and I will help y'all take over by claiming to have been there. And then you have the other ones who are just like, I just need somewhere to fucking live. I'll say whatever lie. So, Tulsa, Oklahoma was known as like the oil capital of America. Yeah, that shit was starting for more reasons than I even feel like getting into right now. However, they like to make it look like just a race massacre that coincidentally appeared. But really, this was planned and well thought out. Even after such, they had this rule that went along where white people took ownership or custodialship or guardianship of the black kids who were getting this wealth so that they could take the land and inherit their own generational wealth. Now, if you look at other places like Rosewood, same exact thing. Black thriving community in Florida who had all of this wealth built up, all this generational wealth. They owned everything and pretty much wiped them out around the same exact time, I believe. Also around the same time, you have the, what is it called? Osina, Florida massacre. Same thing. Another thriving black place, which wealthy black people. And I find it interesting too that during the Trail of Tears, all the people were pushed to Oklahoma, which Tulsa, Oklahoma. Let's not get into it. Now, I'm not here to say who's the real natives. I'm not here to say who's not. I'm just saying it's interesting that all the rules that were put into place are still mostly applying to our colored people. So that's why it gets a little wonky around that time to say the history, because they'll have things and they'll say, well, it was a black indigenous or an Afro indigenous, because they don't want us to believe that we were already here. But then you'll dig deeper into that person's history, because I'm like that. I go deeper and you won't find any proof of them being African at all, just straight up indigenous. Now, why would the people try to lie so hard about you already being here? Because y'all have to understand how time works, right? This was only 500 years ago that we came in contact with these people. We've only known white people for 500 years. Maybe came in contact with them before that, but too far back to really quote. During these 500 years, we have been in war. It is not over. But in order to stop us from fighting, they had to change history, make us not believe who we were anymore, so that we would comply. That's why it's very important that we detach from the word black, because it further feeds into white supremacy and racism. Now, the Indian Removal Act in like 18 something, that is when they start pushing all the natives out and stealing their land and pushing them to reservations that were often reneged and taken back. But this sparked the Seminole Wars, the Gullah Wars, and all of that. There was already a war that had happened before the Seminoles got cut up. But the second war was highly inspired by this event. They was like, hell no, get somebody else to do it. Now, America lost each of these wars. In fact, they lost just about every war that they ever encountered with the indigenous and black people. And the first ever documented revolt was in 1526. So even if you want to say we came here from Africa and that we were all brought here as slaves, we literally been fighting back since the moment we got here. Now again, like the Seminole War, all of that, as early as the 1500s, as soon as we caught sight of these white pale devils, we often reverted to the swamps and things like that where we knew we could be protected. So again, like I say, since the moment we came in contact with them, we have been in war, and we still are. Now again, going back into why would they try to make us not believe we were already here, is to keep us in the idea that we don't belong here and that we're not entitled to shit. But in my next video, I'll go deeper into those massacres and show you where the root of sundown towns even came from. Again, this was never about war. It was the fear that these black people were going to come back and claim the rights to the land in which they owned. Now, why would they be more scared of black people having rights to the land and not the indigenous? Possibly because the blacks were the indigenous. What do I know? But I'm going to end my rant there. I'm going to just let y'all marinate and soak that in. And then I'll probably have to do another part of the black and indigenous history. Because like I say, it's so hard to really explain it all. Because the way they lie and try to reword everything to avoid the obvious.